June, you've asked me to do a presentation on these fictitious applications, so I'll do that. And I'm sure by now, at this point in the afternoon, you know everything about these applicants off by heart, so none of it will be a surprise probably. The way I'm going to do this is to divide it into 3 parts. The first part I'm going to explain what I understand by the criteria. The second part I'll talk about the actual applications, what they're about, who they're from, what the project entails and the costs and so forth. The third part I'll compare the criteria with the project and make recommendations on that. Okay. What I've used to judge each project is the key criteria. Now I understand the assessment framework and the point system comes into play if there's difficulty about if there's a lot of competition, or if there's difficulty about deciding which project merits funding, which doesn't, if there's that situation. I didn't find that situation, so I haven't used them. I've used the first 6 criteria. Okay, the first one is that the application fulfills personal objectives. Well, I take that to mean the objectives of the person who's putting in the proposal, and I expect that's fairly broad, but probably the person that puts in the proposal will either want to increase their skills, gain a qualification, contribute something to society, or change something that they feel strongly about. So it's whatever prompts them to actually make that application. The reason I'd say that this would become important is if the applicant wanted to achieve a certain aim, but the project would actually have an adverse effect or wouldn't reach the aim they were getting at. So that's the only time I think that if there was a massive contradiction in what the applicant wanted to achieve and what the project would actually achieve, that's the only time I see that as being really useful, but I may be wrong. The second criteria is that the project benefits the community. It can be in a number of different ways, from something as intangible as increasing goodwill, increasing profile of a certain group, increasing pride, in community pride, or a feel-good factor. They're the intangibles. But there's other things that can benefit the community by either making use of resource that hasn't been used before, by utilising something that's already in the community, by increasing the skills or the knowledge base in the community, by bringing in other funding or resources into a community. So that's just some of the benefits that a project can have. The third criteria is that the project has clearly defined realistic goals. I think that's fairly evident. Has a reasonable timetable. Doesn't really need much explaining. The fourth one is that there are measurable outputs for the community. Okay, this one could be complicated, because an output is something tangible, but some of the things are probably intangible, aren't so easily quantified. But I'd say what is meant by measurable outputs is that really it's a question of what can you see at the end of it, what does the project achieved that you can actually point to and say this is different as a result of this project having taken place. So that's 4.